Zen. Tonight's Dharma talk is given by Myung-Jin and San.
Here's a name that you've probably never heard in a Dharma talk before and probably won't ever again. Leon Trotsky. For those of you who aren't up on your early 20th century Russian history, Leon Trotsky was a Bolshevik. He was involved in the 1917 October Revolution that brought about the Soviet Union. And after a certain amount of time, a couple of decades, Stalin had him exiled and then actually had him killed too in Mexico. So anyway, why do I bring up a Bolshevik in a Dharma talk? It seems rather incongruous, doesn't it? Well, it is. Except Trotsky's big thing, his theory, was permanent revolution, which is an interesting pair of words. And we won't go into what that is in his gestalt. But permanent and revolution, interesting pair. Permanent implies perpetuating, perpetual, consistent, never changing, solid, etched in stone. You could say any number of things about permanent. But the main one that you would probably come up with is not changing, static. And then you've got the word revolution, which by its nature does mean change, usually in a fairly large way. It's not like I'm going to have a revolution with my socks in the morning. However, on a broader global scale, there's revolutions all the time, right? So, on the one hand, you've got static, and on the other hand, you've got changing, big time changing. Which is, I guess you could call it a dialectic. It can be permanent and revolutioning, revolting. So how does that actually fit into Buddhism in general? Well, of course, we know that the three marks of existence are no self, impermanence, and suffering, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. There are those who throw in a fourth one, nirvana. I wasn't taught that way. I'm a three mark of existence, three Dharma seal guy. So, no self, we don't really need to go into right here. Suffering, dukkha, we don't really need to go into very deeply here. But impermanence, that's a biggie. All conditioned phenomena is characterized by both impermanence and emptiness. Everything is going through constant changing. Changing. You could even say it's permanently changing because that at least is a static state, which is kind of a weird thing, considering static and changing are sort of, like I said, the dialectic. But everything that's conditioned on something else is subject to impermanence. Sometimes we really like that impermanence thing. Like when the snow melts and I don't have to shovel anymore. I'm pretty okay with that form of impermanence. When the autumn leaves finally stop falling and the first frost hits, yeah, that impermanence I'm not that crazy about. And then when the first snowfall hits and fall changes into winter, not digging that impermanence. So there are plenty of opportunities for us to experience impermanence every day. I mean, consciously experience it. Not just like, oh, I had a bunch of skin cells just die and slough off. But more things like, noticing the seasons change. Noticing when our car gets a flat tire. Noticing when a loved one gets sick or dies. All these things, they're all things that are very unpleasant. We want to hang on to that loved one. We want to hang on to autumn. We want to hang on to the sunshine. We want to hang on to the air in our tire. But it's subject to change. I mentioned that impermanence and emptiness are both characterized by being conditioned. All conditioned phenomena are characterized by emptiness, is as I recall, D.T. Suzuki quote. You can say the same about, substitute the word impermanent in there as well. I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same. Impermanence is more of a physical manifestation, and emptiness is more of a, I don't want to use the word cosmic or spiritual, but I will. It's more of a cosmic scenario where it pervades all conditioned phenomena. It's the status quo. It's how things are. You could say that the state of emptiness, or that there is a state of emptiness, is an example of permanence, but I won't. So there's, like I said, levels of this impermanence. We have the more mundane ones. Oh, I got a hole in my sock. And then there's the bigger ones, like finding out that what you thought you could count on is not quite what you can count on. It's one of those things that I've used the example in the past about the three-legged stool, right? You take one of them out, let's say something goes impermanent, and everything collapses. So impermanence can be a real drag. It can be great. It can be a drag. Whatever it is, it's a thing. There's no denying it. Just like there's no denying dukkha as a result from it. Sometimes it just makes us suffer because we want to hang on to that thing that we have grown to like. So, emptiness. We often say that it's open rather than lacking. Emptiness is the world of possibilities. Emptiness implies that since there is nothing static, nothing to actually grasp onto, then all things are possible. Not such a bad thing. Maybe a little tough to get used to. Maybe I don't really want to think of emptiness right now. I'd really like to have something to stand on. I'd like all three legs of that stool to be there just for a little while. And maybe for a little while they will be, but not forever. Changing, changing, changing. So where does that leave us? Well, once we have internalized emptiness, the acceptance of emptiness, you could even say, just being aware of emptiness, seeing emptiness, having a view of emptiness. It's a thing. No arguing about it. And given that all things are possible, when someone comes along and says, I'm suffering, my dog died, among the things that you can say in emptiness would be, oh, all dogs are impermanent, as are the rest of us, and your perception of the dog is empty and probably not real helpful, not real skillful. In fact, we had a talk about this just a couple of weeks ago. So what is helpful? What's going to help one of those sentient beings who's suffering because of basically impermanence? The revolution, as it were. You got to be able to read it. You have to be able to pay attention, be mindful of situation, relationship, and function, as we're prone to say. You know, who is this person? Are you at a funeral? Is that your situation? Is it some stranger you never have seen again, as seen before, and probably never will again? What do you do? What is your function in that scenario? Do you go on about impermanence and emptiness? Depending on the relationship, maybe. Somebody would have to be a real solid Buddhist practitioner to accept that sort of statement from someone. And they would probably be solid enough that they already know that. They don't need you to tell them about emptiness and impermanence. And shut up and let me cry. Tears pass. Smiles pass. The opportunity to be of service to someone, to help them, those opportunities may not come along all that often, especially with a given person. In fact, if you aren't helpful, you may not ever have the opportunity to be helpful again with them, because they may just tell you to get the hell out of here. So we read the situation. We have to be mindful of it. We have to pay attention to that situation, that relationship, and that function, so we know what the appropriate action will be in that situation with that particular person. So, in closing, I would like to thank Leon Trotsky and my synapses for collaborating in coming up with the idea for this Dharma talk. So here's to you, Lev.